as the BZA. The board members who will hear your case tonight are, to my right, Mr. Truslow, Mr. Brown, Mr. Seidel, and to my left, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Smith are not here. Mrs. Jessica Smith and Shayna Smith will be here shortly, and Mr. Jordan.
Yes, sir.
You can come sit down here closer if you need to, Mr. Jordan. Staff members present tonight are Genesis Clark, Jenny Working, Lee Ziegler, and Kelvin Hugie is the BZA attorney. Because the hearing tonight is a public fact-finding meeting, we are in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act and SC Code 629-70. 15 days prior to this hearing, an announcement was printed in the Post and Courier, a sign was posted on or near the designated property, and a notice was mailed to the applicant or to the applicant's representative, to property owners within at least 300 feet of the property, and to parties in interest. Persons, organizations, and the news media that have requested declaration of our meeting have also been notified. Board members, the meeting notes for April 7, 2025 public hearing were sent to you. Are there any changes? If not, may I have a motion to approve and a second?
I so move.
So moved by Mr. Truslow, Mr. Seidel for the second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand and say aye. Mr. Jordan, are you good in a minute? All right. All right, that has passed. Our case rulings from this and any BZA meeting are available for public review and inspection during normal business hours at the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body that has final decision-making authority on, 1, appeals of zoning-related administrative decisions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did that for you.
The BZA is authorized to hear and decide appeals only on zoning-related matters where it is alleged there is an error in any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by an administrative official in the administration or enforcement of any zoning-related regulations. A 2/3 vote of the quorum present is required to overturn the decision of the planning director in an appeal. 2, a special exception is an exception issued by the BZA authorizing a particular use in a specified location within a zoning district upon demonstrating that such use complies with all conditions and standards specified by the Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance, that you'll often hear referred to tonight as ZELDAR. The BZA must find that the special exception request meets all 6 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant the special exception. A simple majority is required to grant a special exception. A variance is a relaxation by the BZA of the dimensional regulations of the ordinance where such action will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to conditions peculiar to that property and not the result of actions or the situation of the applicant, a literal enforcement of this code would result in an unnecessary and undue hardship. And such variance is consistent with Section 6-29-800 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina, Title 6, Chapter 29. The BZA must find that the variance request meets all 7 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant the variance. A simple majority is required to grant a variance. Our purpose tonight is for interested parties to be heard in order to assist the board in gathering evidence pertinent to each case. If the members of the BZA feel the need for further information to clarify a case, the board has the authority to subpoena witnesses. It must be understood that the rules of your neighborhood or subdivisions are binding and that we can take no action that will negate their jurisdiction over your property. In addition to your testimony, our board has been presented written information submitted to staff by the applicant or the applicant's agent for each case. This information is now considered to be evidence and is entered into the permanent record of this body. It is assumed that it is complete, true, and accurate. In addition, we have been presented data assembled by the staff for the purpose of clarifying the location and the applicant's effect on the surrounding property. Our board is empowered to approve with conditions, or deny a special exception or variance request. We are also authorized to defer a case should there be need to obtain additional information. The BZA's final decision will be mailed within 10 working days of this public hearing. It will be mailed via certified mail to applicants and via U.S. mail to neighbor and community interest notice list. If an applicant's request is approved, the applicant should contact the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department staff to discuss the next steps in the process. Variances and special exceptions granted this evening are valid for 12 months after this meeting, and a one-year extension may be granted only if construction or development has commenced or is being diligently pursued. However, if an applicant's request is disapproved, and if the applicant wishes to appeal the decision of this board concerning the case, appeals must be addressed to the Circuit Court. SC Code 629-820 states that the appeal must be filed by the applicant within 30 days after a decision of the board is mailed to them. Failure to file an appeal within the time limit deprives the court of the jurisdiction to hear the matter. Because this is a quasi-judicial body, everything said in this meeting must be complete, true, and accurate. All of the information provided to the BZA is considered evidence, and this board may certify contempt of circuit court if false statements are made, either in writing or orally. Each person who wishes to address this board will be sworn in by the BZA secretary before they provide testimony or evidence. In order to expedite the procedure, those wishing to speak will please stand as a group, and Mrs. Working will administer the oath.
Please stand and raise your right hand. I will say the oath, and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call each case by case number. Staff will present facts pertinent to the case, limited to 5 minutes. I will then call the applicant. The applicant will stand and state his or her name and current address for the record before presenting testimony pertinent to the case, limited to 5 minutes. I will then ask for all those speaking either in support or in opposition to the case, and they will follow the same procedure for identifying themselves and are limited to 2 minutes each. The applicant will then have a chance to reply to any opposition, again limited to just 2 minutes, and then the BZA will make a motion to close the case to the public. Finally, the BZA will make a motion concerning the application, stating the specific findings of fact and conclusions of law. Tonight, we will hear 8 new business public hearing cases. Mr. Ziegler, can you please introduce the first new business case, which is case number BZA 0325-00849.
Sure. In the case of BZA case 03-25-00849, the applicants and property owners, Michael and Joseph Hager, are requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental property, extended home rental, EHR, in the low-density manufactured housing subdivision zoning district in 1990 Wild Wing Lane, where TMS number 331-07-00074, on James Island in Charleston County. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the low-density manufactured housing subdivision zoning district. The property is approximately 0.15 acres and contains a single-family residence with 5 bedrooms that was constructed in 2025 per Charleston County records. The applicant would like to rent 5 bedrooms and will provide 7 parking spaces. The maximum number of guests allowed will be 12. The property is not owner-occupied, therefore the property is not eligible for a limited home rental. Here's the zoning map, which shows the subject property outlined in blue. And here are the zoning ordinance requirements. Next, we have the 300-foot radius map, an aerial photo, and another aerial zoomed out. We posted the property on April 16th, 2025. And this is the subject property with the proposed parking. It's a little difficult to see with the shadows, but 4 spaces will be underneath the home in the garage with another 3 spaces in the driveway. And here are a couple pictures of surrounding properties. One's across the street and one is adjacent. And this is Wild Wing Lane going in both directions. Here's the survey, site plan, tenant notice, and plat. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it may meet 1, 2, and 3. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny the request based on the BZA's findings of fact, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following conditions recommended by staff. 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. 3, This property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. There are also 19 short-term rentals in this neighborhood based on research. Any questions?
Board members, do you have any questions for staff? None? This might be a first. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Is the applicant present? If you would, please come forward, state your name and address, and tell us why we should approve your application. And ladies and gentlemen, we have monitors up front, so we often will not look behind us if there's specific reference materials.
Thank you for your time today. I'm Joseph Hager. I live at 920 Hood Street on James Island. My brother and I were fortunate enough to be able to build this house to primarily allow my parents who are out of state to spend some more time in Charleston with my young kids in the off months, in the winter months. To be able to offer that to them, we hope to use the short-term rental in the summertime to create some funds to be able to allow my family to use the house in the winter months to stay and visit our kids. So I hope that you see our case and approve accordingly. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, board members, do you have questions for the applicant? Mr. Brown?
So would you be the one managing this property?
No, we're going to attain the services of property management company.
So that's who would be called in the event of something happening,
Correct.
crazy parties or what?
Yeah, we don't intend to be very involved from the management perspective. I want it to be a fairly high, well-run, like efficient, kind of higher-end property. So we pursued the services of a company called Salty Air. They're kind of a James Island-based property management company. They do a lot of like vacation rental type services. Our goal is to be more of like a weekly rental. We want to do minimal like short-term stays, like 2 days. Primarily, we'd love to have it be like week-long beach renters, families visiting, like higher-end clientele, less turnover if possible. Yeah.
Mr. I just blanked on your name.
So this company that you hired, are they going to answer the phone at 3 a.m. if there's a problem with the neighbors?
As far as I understand, they have like a call service that they third party out, so there is availability 24/7. The women don't do it directly.
Out there, or are they going to hide behind a recorder, or somebody going to answer the phone?
I don't. I do not have an answer to that. I don't know. We just signed their contract last week.
But you'd like to know that, would you? So you can
Of course.
tell your
Yes.
neighbors around it
Yes. Of course.
who to call
Who to call? Any time of day. Correct. Yeah.
or night.
Or night.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Jordan?
Nope, not now.
Mr. Truslow?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious. What do you do? You can rent for 144 days a year. What do you do the rest? Not that it specifically matters for this case. What do you do the rest of the year?
What are we going to do with the property?
Yes, sir.
We're going to allow my parents and my family and friends to use the house seasonally. My brother and I live in Charleston with little kids, and my parents are in Maryland, and they hope to move down here permanently one day. So we're very fortunate to have this home to kind of offer them in the wintertime to be around all of us. So we're just going to let family and friends use it, and we're hoping to subsidize their stays there by profiting a little bit in summertime and then letting them use the house in the wintertime.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for the applicant? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? All right, we will now close the public hearing portion of this case. Board members, do you have any other questions for staff? And Mr.
Would you entertain a motion to
I would
approve?
entertain a motion, Mr. Truesdale.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this request for a special exception to establish a short-term rental and an extended home rental under the conditions recommended by staff. Jurisdiction is proper, notice has been given, all the legal check marks have been checked off. The law governing this matter is set forth in Zelder, Chapter 6. There are 3 criteria that we go by, and we go by them in every single case. The The criteria are set forth in section 6.8.2C 1 through 3. All those conditions have been met, and I think we're required to state these because if there was ever an appeal, there would be a record of what we've done. The question is whether this is compatible with existing uses in the community or in the vicinity, and that this will not be adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. There have been no objections. This is a well-built, appears to be a very attractive, well-built home. And again, no objections, and the plan is for 144 days a year. The rest of the time, it would not be rented to friends or family, be available for parents. This short-term rental is compatible with existing uses in the community. The property's design and operation will align with the character of the neighborhood. The community will not be adversely affected. Number two, it's obvious that the adequate provisions for items such as setbacks, buffering, fencing, and such to protect the adjacent properties are made available for this size property. There's adequate parking that's clearly been established. Number three, does it comply with all applicable rules, regulations, and laws of the ordinance, which it does. My motion is to approve this subject to the conditions set by staff 1 through 4. That is my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Trueslow. Do I have a second? Mr. Seidel for a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. So that passes unanimously. So your application has been granted, sir. You will receive a final decision from staff via certified mail within 10 working days, and contact them regarding the next steps in the process. Thank you for your time. All right, Mr. Ziegler, our next case is BZA 0325000850.
The applicant and property owner, Stanley Harold, is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental property, extended home rental in the low-density residential R4 zoning district at 1582 River Road, or TMS number 312-0000083 on Johns Island in Charleston County. The property and surrounding properties to the south and east are located in the low-density residential R4 zoning district. The surrounding properties to the north and west are located in the City of Charleston's jurisdiction. The property is approximately 0.63 acres and contains a single-family residence with 3 bedrooms that was constructed in 2015 per Charleston County records. The detached garage was constructed in 2015. However, the accessory dwelling unit, ADU, with 1 bedroom above the garage was permitted in 2021. The ADU is 500 square feet. The property also contains a pool that was constructed in 2019 per Charleston County records. The applicant would like to rent the 1-bedroom ADU only and will provide 3 parking spaces. The maximum number of guests allowed will be 2. The property is owner-occupied, and the owner has rented the ADU as a limited home rental since January of 2022. Limited home rental permits are limited to 72 rental days in aggregate per calendar year. If this request is approved, the maximum short-term rental days is capped at 144, including the days rented as a limited home rental in 2025. Here's the zoning map with the subject property outlined in blue. These are the zoning ordinance requirements. Here is the 300-foot radius map, an aerial photo, and another aerial zoomed out. We posted the property on April 16th, 2025. Here is the subject property and the ADU. And with the proposed parking there are 2 spaces to the right of the ADU in a gravel parking area, and 1 space will be in the garage if necessary. Here are a couple surrounding properties. The townhouses are to the north, and they're brand new, newly constructed this year. And the photo on the right is from a house 2 doors down, or 2 lots down. Here is 2 pictures of River Road. I couldn't get actual pictures when I was out there with the cars zooming by, So I took Google Street View images. Here's the site plan, tenant notice, and plat. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it may meet 1, 2, and 3. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny the request based on the BZA's findings of fact, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following conditions recommended by staff. 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. 3, this property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year, including the days rented thus far in 2025. 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. And we did receive one comment in support of this application, and there are about only 2 other short-term rentals within a mile radius.
Well, one suggestion, if you want to take photos on River Road, just show up around 7:30 in the morning. Traffic doesn't move at all, and you'll be fine right there. But it'd just take you an hour to get there. Board members, do you have any questions for staff? There are no questions for staff. So is the applicant present? If you would come forward, state your name and address for the record, and tell us why we should approve your application.
My name is Stanley Harold, live at 1578 River Road, and requesting approval of the property because we love being hosts. We have been trying to get this approved ever since 2021 when we found out that the previous owners had established the Airbnb, but when we found out that it was not established as a licensed Airbnb, then that's when I pursued this request.
Anything else?
I hope that you would take the time to consider.
Okay. Board members, do you have questions for the applicant? Mr. Seidel?
Mr. Harold, thank you for your presentation. You've been renting this out as a rental recently over the last year or so, right? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? Have you had any complaints from neighbors or any problems from your neighbors about the people who are renting or noise or
No, sir.
anything? Okay. Thank you. And you will be living in the home there.
live at the address,
And
yes.
on site for any
Correct.
problems that may come up. Okay. Thank you very
correct.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seidel. Mr. Truslow?
No, I think Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Jordan?
Do your neighbors know who to call if there's a problem in the middle of the night?
Do my neighbors know who to call?
For this property,
Oh, I live on the property, so if there is any issues, they will know to
do they know
contact.
that?
Yes,
They
sir.
know you're there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Truslow?
I'm going to ask the same question, Mr. Harold, I asked the previous applicant. When the property's not rented, you have 144 days a year. What are you going to do the rest of the year?
It either stays unoccupied, or when we invite relatives or friends to come over, then they usually stay there.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? All right, we will close this case, the public hearing section of this case. And Mr. Seidel, would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that in case BZA 0325000850, that this application be approved. I find that it meets all 3 criteria, that is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity, that we've heard that there are 2 short-term rentals in the general vicinity of this ADU, and it will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate vicinity. We've heard testimony from the applicant that he lives in the adjoining property and will be there when it is rented. Two, that adequate provision is made to protect the adjacent properties. In his application, he made note of the privacy fence and that there was sufficient parking for 3 cars and that the rental will be limited to 2 individuals. So it complies with that requirement. And finally, that it complies with all applicant rules, regulations, and laws and according to the ordinance. And the applicant is committed to comply. I am making this conditional on the applicant meeting the 4 conditions set by staff. And I do note that there was 1 letter raised or received in support of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Seidel. Do I have a second?
Second.
We'll go with Mr. Trueslow. All right, we have a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
I got a question for staff. Every time I come to this meeting, I'm amazed that your enforcers out there do so much. Was this a situation where they never found this in the past not right, or are they the ones that found it? And why this gentleman's going through this now?
That was the previous owner who had established or was Airbnb-ing it without a permit previously.
That's my question, though. We didn't catch that?
I wasn't working here at the time.
Okay. So I guess they didn't catch it. But I was just curious.
Anything else, Mr. Jordan? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. All right, Mr. Harold, your application has been approved. You will receive the final decision by staff via certified mail within 10 working days, and you should contact the planning and zoning staff for the next steps in the process. So thank you for your time. All right, our next case this evening will be BZA 0325000851, and it will be Mr. Ziegler again.
The applicant and property owner, Jesse Schuberg, is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental property, extended home rental, in the low-density residential R4 zoning district at 1675 and 1675A Pierpont Avenue, TMS number 353-03-00050 in the St. Andrews area of Charleston County. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the low-density residential R4 zoning district. The property is approximately 0.37 acres and contains a single-family residence with 3 bedrooms and an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, with 2 bedrooms that were constructed in 2023 per Charleston County records. The applicant would like to rent 3 bedrooms in the principal dwelling and 2 bedrooms in the ADU and will provide 9 parking spaces. The maximum number of guests allowed will be 12. The property was owner-occupied until recently, and the owner obtained a limited home rental LHR permit in February of 2025. LHR permits are limited to 72 rental days in aggregate per calendar year. The property is no longer the owner's primary residence, therefore it is no longer eligible for a limited home rental. Research of rental sites shows that the property has not been advertised as a short-term rental since acquiring the LHR permit. As a reminder, the maximum number of rental days is capped at 144, allocated between both units, as rental days are applied per lot, not per dwelling, pursuant to Article 12.1 in the ZELDR. The zoning map shows the subject property outlined in blue. Here you can see the zoning ordinance requirements. Next is the 300-foot radius map, an aerial photo, and another aerial zoomed out. We posted this property on April 16th, 2025, and this is the subject property with proposed parking in the driveway. These are a couple pictures of neighboring properties and Pierpont Avenue going in both directions. Here's the site plan, tenant notice, survey, and plat. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it may meet 1, 2, and 3. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny the request unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the Board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following conditions recommended by staff. 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. 3, this property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. Again, the number of rental days applies per lot, not per dwelling. 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. We did receive 3 comments in opposition to this application, and there are 6 other short-term rentals in the Pierpont neighborhood. Are there any questions?
Board members, do you have any questions for staff? Mr. Brown?
As far as the parking and the site go, has anyone looked at that? And I guess I'll just get closer, sorry. Has anyone looked at the site plan to verify parking works with parking requirements?
Yeah,
and
we
things like that?
measured the site plan when they submitted. And the driveway, actually, it's hard to see with the truck in the back, but it goes all the way back to the ADU. Like the picture on the right-hand side, that's the same driveway going all the way back from the street to the ADU, behind the truck and the boat in the left photo. So the driveway is got to be over 100 feet long.
My question's more about parallel parking size, and if there's actually enough room to parallel park in an 18-foot spot.
We did
I know-
measure it when it was submitted, and they're only required to have 7 parking spaces. They submitted
Okay.
9, but they only need 7 to satisfy the requirements.
That helps, okay.
Any other questions for staff? And well, just please confirm, you mentioned this during your presentation, but this is, the applicant is proposing to rent out 2 separate units, both the house and the ADU. And in aggregate, he would be allowed up to 144 days for both, right?
For both, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Is the applicant present? If you would come forward, state your name and address, and please tell us why we should approve your application.
Jesse Schubert. Jesse Schubert, 1675 Pierpont Avenue. Thank you for taking the time to hear me out today. I live at this property full-time as my primary residence. My original goal in applying for an extended short-term rental license was to cover my guest house, but after speaking with zoning staff, I learned it could also apply to my main house, which I thought would be useful for when I'm away. The guest house is currently approved for 72 days as a limited STR, and I'm simply hoping for the ability to rent it out for more days with the extended license. While the R4 zoning district is primarily intended for single-family residential use, it also permits limited commercial activity, explicitly allowing residents to operate low-impact home-based businesses as long as they do not disrupt the neighborhood's residential character and remain secondary to the residential use. The presence of various existing businesses in the neighborhood, including excavating contractors, mechanics, notaries, and other short-term rentals, demonstrates that such low-impact commercial activity is not only permissible, but already integrated into the fabric of the community. And while I respect everyone's right to have their opinions heard, I'd like to respectfully point out that one of the individuals opposing my application is a renter, not a homeowner. Their voice matters, of course, but I hope my position as property owner, who is financially and personally invested in this neighborhood, will also be given serious consideration. The other opposition comes from a couple whose house is approximately 7 houses down and across the street, and who, in my opinion, would not be directly affected by my requested use of my property as a part-time short-term rental. As an experienced host with over 7 years of short-term rental experience on Folly Beach and in Tennessee, earning over 1,100 reviews and a 4.96 rating, I uphold high standards and strict house rules, which guests must agree to at booking and sign upon arrival. Most guests are quiet and respectful, and I've promptly removed the rare few who weren't. I have a security system in place at my home and can add noise monitors for added peace of mind. These link to the Airbnb platform and notify both the guest and myself in real time if noise exceeds a set level. I'm a hands-on host with a 100% response rate within the hour, and I'm available 24/7. I'll be sure to share my direct contact with nearby neighbors who don't already have it, and can also be easily reached through my Airbnb listing to ensure any concerns are quickly and respectfully addressed. Sorry, a little shaky. I just have a little bit more. In my 7 years as a landlord of both short and long-term rentals, I have found short-term rental guests are often more responsible. This is in part due to Airbnb's two-way review system, which holds both guests and hosts accountable and also provides prompt customer service and to assist in resolving issues. To confirm, Airbnb does conduct background checks on all U.S.-based guests, including criminal convictions, sex offender registries, identity verification, and reservation screening. My property has a 150-foot driveway that fits up to 10 cars comfortably, so street parking shouldn't be needed. I do apologize for the recent overflow. I've been constructing a pool, and coordinating with workers has forced me to use the street for parking at times. The project is nearing completion, and those issues, including the construction noise, should be fully resolved soon. While I find it hard to imagine a scenario where a guest would cause damage to a neighbor's property, I do carry homeowners insurance that specifically covers short-term rentals, as I currently rent the guest house. For added peace of mind, it should be noted that the property is well secured with an 11-foot privacy fence enclosing most of the property, and a 4-foot fence around the front yard, containing pets, reducing foot traffic, and even buffering some noise. It is also worth noting that the large lot size and mature trees in our neighborhood provide a good amount of privacy as well. In closing, I just want to say I'm not here to cause disruption. As a Charleston native with a deep appreciation for the city, I care about being a good neighbor and using my home in a way that's respectful to the community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Schuberg. That might be the most thorough application we've received for extended home rental. One question.
Yes.
Staff noted in their report that the home was no longer owner occupied, but you stated at the front end that you still live there?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why that's, unless maybe I just moved there. So the second year you have to do your 4% again. I'm not sure why that confusion came up, but I still live there full time.
So we may have to clarify that, but it might not matter if we pass this tonight anyway. So.
Okay.
It wouldn't matter for the extended home rental if it's owner occupied or not. I'm on the Charleston County website, and it's showing that it's not her legal residence as currently.
Okay.
So I don't know why that discrepancy is there.
Okay. All right. Any questions for this applicant? I'll start here on my left. Mr. Jordan,
I think she answered my question.
on my right.
You know, that was as thorough a presentation as we've had, and thank you for doing so when you checked off all the boxes. I have the same question for everybody. When your property's not rented, what happens during the rest of the year?
The main house I'll live in, continue to live in, and then the back house, when it's not rented, it will just remain unoccupied. I do have family in Michigan and Georgia, and so they come often to take up some of that open time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Truslow. Mr. Brown, did you have a question, or were you just leaving? Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? All right, there being no one else to speak, we will close the public hearing portion of this meeting, and I will ask my board members if they have any other questions for staff. No other questions for staff. Mr. Brown, would you like to make a motion?
Are there any issues with this discrepancy of permanent residents or
For
not?
the extended home rental, owner occupancy is not required, so it really is not applicable to this case.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Is there someone that would like to make a motion? Mr. Truslow.
I'll make the motion. It pleases me to move that we approve this request in case ending in 851. It's a request for a special exception to establish short-term rental and extended home rental I will say this is not a perfunctory process. Each of these cases we look at separately. And this is for the audience. We've done all the heavy lifting beforehand. If you were a painter, we prepared the surface, and now we're just finishing up. And again, thank you for a great presentation. If I could, I would just incorporate, because it's similar to the last two cases we approved, I would move to approve on the same basis. There's been proper notice, there's proper jurisdiction. The criteria set forth in section 6.8.2C, 1 through 3, have all been met. It's compatible with existing uses. Clearly, well-presented case of setbacks, buffering, land, parking, landscaping, everything else has been provided for. The community is going to be protected, and it complies with all applicable rules, regulations, and laws. And that's my motion, provided that the applicant will agree to these 4 conditions recommended by staff, that includes being limited to 144 days per year, and the public's otherwise protected. So that's my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Truslow. I'm gonna look to my left for a second. Do we have a second down here? All right, Ms. Smith, thank you. All right, we have a motion that's been properly made and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye if you're in favor of this motion. Aye. That is unanimous. So, Ms. Schuberg, your application has been granted. Within 10 business days, you'll receive the final decision from staff via certified mail, and please contact them for the next steps in the process. Thank you for your time. All right. We have one more STR this evening, and it is case BZA 0325000852.
The applicant and property owner, Brandon Seitz of Insightful Properties, LLC, is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental property, extended home rental, EHR, in the low-density residential R4 zoning district at 434 Riverland Drive, or TMS number 343-1000024 on James Island in Charleston County. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the low-density residential R4 zoning district. The property is approximately 0.21 acres and contains a single-family residence with 4 bedrooms that was constructed in 1945 per Charleston County records. The applicant would like to rent 4 bedrooms and will provide 6 parking spaces. The maximum number of guests allowed will be 8. The property is not owner-occupied, therefore the property is not eligible for a limited home rental. Here's the zoning map. These are the zoning ordinance requirements. Next, we have the 300-foot radius map, an aerial photo, another aerial zoomed out. We posted the property on April 16th, 2025. And here's a picture of the property with proposed parking in the driveway and yard. Here are a couple surrounding properties. And similar situation here with Riverland Drive being busy. I just used Google Street View. Here's the site plan, tenant notice, and plat. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it may meet 1, 2, and 3. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny the request unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following conditions recommended by staff. 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. 3, this property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. And there are 9 other short-term rentals in close proximity between Maybank and Woodland Shores, and there are close to 40 short-term rentals on the other side of Maybank and Riverland Terrace.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Do board members have any questions for staff for this one? No questions for staff. So is the applicant available? If you'd come forward and state your name and address for the record and tell us why we should approve your application.
Yes. Good afternoon. I am Brandon Seitz, the owner of Insightful Properties. My address is 969 Hawthorne Court, San Marcos, California, 92078. And my goal here is to create an affordable, comfortable, safe, and convenient place for families to visit Charleston. I've been all over the world for work, working for the Department of Defense, working for multiple companies, and I think Charleston is one of the greatest places in the world. And I want other people to be able to experience that. I have 4 kids, and we travel. Airbnb is the best place to stay, much better than a hotel. It's much more comfortable, convenient, all those things that I just stated. We often travel with extended family, grandparents, and so forth. And so, yeah, we found that to be the best travel experience, and I want to provide that for other people coming here. I purchased the house in January, and since then I've spent considerable blood, sweat, tears, money renovating it from bottom to top, everything from the crawl space to the roof. Many late nights, many early mornings while still working my regular job in California. And so I have a vested interest in making sure this is done right. I think as Mr. Ziegler pointed out, and thank you for the presentation, sir, it is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath property, up to 8 guests. I'll be very strict about who stays there in terms of reviews, types of people staying there. The property does have 6 parking spaces, 144 days a year limit as well, is what I expect to align with. Also, as he stated, there's multiple short-term rentals in that area. Just a couple of houses north, there's multiples, and across the highway and close by. That being said, in order to help with enforcing those rules, I already have cameras on the property, Ring cameras, mostly for like the front porch where you come in, also the side of the house. I can monitor the full driveway, who's coming and who's going. Also, I have the wind sensors for noise. I get notified immediately of noise, also notifies the guests, also detects smoking, also not allowed. So I have the provisions in place. I've been starting to work with local property management companies. At the top of the list there is Southern Charm Hospitality Group. So they've met in my house a few times, talked about some things. Haven't signed any formal agreements, just trying to get approval here. Hopefully I get approval here, move forward with that. But they are available 24/7, one of the top-rated property management groups here in Charleston. Also speaking with a few, Airbnb co-hosts and things like that. So really, I've been doing my homework, and I want this to be done right. In that vein, I've gotten to know some of the neighbors pretty well. Sharon lives just one house north. I actually had coffee with her this morning to talk about some of the trees and things like that. Neighbors across the street, I've talked with them about it. Some of them are renters, actually just switched out in one of the houses. The only neighbor I haven't been able to notify or speak with directly is the neighbor to the south. I know that her name is Mona. I've been over there a few times in the last few months when I've been here working on the property. I haven't been able to talk with her directly, but I will make every effort to continue that dialogue. I'm wanting to do this right and make this a great place for people to stay when they're visiting Charleston.
Well, thank you, Mr. Seitz. That was also a thorough presentation. Appreciate that. Let me see if my board members have any questions for you. Mr. Jordan.
Well, I had it on, but I turned it off because he answered.
All right. Anyone else to my left? No. Anybody to the right? All right. This is pretty quick this evening. Well, thank you for your time this evening. Really appreciate your testimony.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? All right. We will close the public comment portion of this hearing, and I'll ask my board members if there are any additional questions for staff. There are no questions for staff, so I will entertain a motion. Is there anyone down here want to make a motion this evening? All right, Mr. Seidel, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in the BZA case 0325000852, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application for short-term rental. Find that it meets all 3 criteria that we must consider. It's compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare. We've had facts revealed that there are many other short-term rentals in the area, so it's in compatible with other rentals. It was also in his applications, it's backed up to Maybank Highway, which is a very noisy place, so it's probably not one that is conducive to a residential home full-time in any case. The adequate provision was made to protect adjacent properties. There's trees, shrubs, and privacy fence. He has established rules, no parties. We've heard testimony from Mr. Seitz that he has cameras installed, noise detectors, and has no smoking, and is looking at a local management company to provide service for this property. So it'll be a very quick response when should there be any problems. And finally, that it complies with all applicable rules and regulations and laws. In making a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman, I include the 4 conditions set by staff for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Seidel. Do I have a second? Mr. Truslow with the second. So we have a motion that has been properly made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
One comment for the public, that these special conditions are there to protect the community as a whole, and hope everybody understands that. This isn't into the process. They have to ensure that the public's going to be protected.
Thank you, Mr. Truslow.
All right.
All right. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is once again unanimous. So, Mr. Seitz, your application has been approved. Within 10 working days, you'll receive via certified mail the final decision from staff, and they contact them for the next steps in the process. Thank you for your time this evening. All right. That's 4 cases in less than 1 hour. That might be a record, so good job, board.
They've been so well prepared.
All right, Ms. Working, case number BZA 0325-00853.
Okay. The applicant and property owner, Sean C. Carey, is requesting a variance to reduce the required 30-foot rear setback by 13.4 feet to 16.6 feet for an existing unpermitted detached accessory structure. It's a 16-foot by 40-foot shed at 5524 Katy Hill Road, TMS number 197000083 on Waubonlah Island in Charleston County. Additional property owners are April Lynn Carey, William Edward Carey, and Denise Rosemary Marie Carey. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the agricultural residential AGR zoning district. The property is 1 acre and contains a single-family residence that was constructed in 2007 per Charleston County records. The property also contains an unpermitted detached accessory structure, 16 by 40-foot shed, that is located 16.6 feet from the rear property line. Based on aerial photographs, the shed was constructed sometime between 2021 and 2023. The Carey family has owned the property since March 1st, 2022. This is the zoning ordinance requirements for the setback, the 300-foot radius. Aerial map, you could see the structure top right in the picture. We posted this property on April 16th. This is the structure here. And the structure, another picture of the structure with the single family residence, the other picture. Site plan and the plat. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it may meet 1 through 4 and 6 and 7, and that it meets 5. The board may approve of conditions, or deny the request based on the board's findings of fact, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, staff recommends the following condition. 1, the applicant property owners shall obtain all required zoning and building permits for the unpermitted detached accessory structure. Any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Working. I'll start with a question. The plat that we have shows a 15-foot rear setback. Is that an older requirement for AGR?
So they put a little box around there that confused me at first as well. It's just showing that that's their proposed 15-foot.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not a structure, which is what I thought. I thought that was a proposed structure.
Are there any other questions for staff? Mr. Truslow?
Thank you for your presentation. How was this discovered?
Yeah, code enforcement officers.
Was it a so it wasn't a voluntary report? It was discovered by code enforcement?
Correct.
All right. And who built the shed? Was it the current owner or was it
Yes.
somebody before? Okay. I guess I should ask them, but what was the reason for not complying with the law in the first
Yeah,
place?
I don't know.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mrs. Working. Is the applicant present? If you would come forward and state your name and address for the record and tell us why we should approve your request.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Board. My name is Sean Carey. I reside at 5524 Katy Hill Road. We moved to the property, as said, in March of 22. We purchased a temporary building from a company out in Ravenel, Graceland Buildings. We purchased that building in September of 22 to provide, there was no garage or any kind of that type of storage on the property. So we purchased this building with intent to use it for such. When we purchased the property, we had a plat that showed that we had a 15-foot setback. It was from the residence is a manufactured home, and the plat was from the manufacturing company. In 2023, after we had hired the company in Ravenel to deliver the building, set it up, we provided them the plat that we had as for where to put the building, and we had all kind of come to a conclusion that the furthest away from the street, less obstructing to the road, was where we chose to put it. Unbeknownst to myself or my family, that it was actually within a 30-foot setback. And we also, after the property, or after the building was installed and hurricane strapped in, I apologize, there was actually, how this came about, to answer your question, was in June last year, we had actually got with a pool company we were wanting to build a pool on the property. And that's kind of actually how this all came about. In last year, our permitting process, we found out that our pool was also going to be within that 30-foot setback. And then they, at that time, informed us of the building being out of code. So at that time, we started the process to try to figure out why it wasn't applied for. We contacted the building company that we bought it from, and they in turn came back to us and said the same thing, that they found out, and we don't know why it wasn't taken care of then when we purchased the building. It basically seems like it was just overlooked. So then when we found that out last year, we began this process, kind of waiting for that company to maybe apply for the variance, but then we determined that it was, basically on us to do so. So that's why we're here. And that's why we were asking, I know in the, forgive me for not knowing what part, but in some part of it, it says we're asking for a 16.3 or something setback. We were actually asking for 15 feet to be able to do other things on this property. The way the property is situated on, the majority of the property is facing the street, over 350 feet of the property. It allows less than 40% of the property to be utilized. And the house and the septic drain field and tank and the pump house and where we get our water from really take up the majority of that space. That's why we were asking for this extension of setback, was to be able to continue to improve the property, build a pool, and
really, that's kind of it, is the pool and the building is the only other two improvements we were looking to make so far. That was it. I appreciate any consideration that you all have.
We appreciate your testimony. We'll start by, this may be a question for staff, but I believe that we can't do a blanket setback for the entire property. It would have to be done on a per-case basis. Is that correct, Mrs. Working?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So just so you understand, the only thing that we'll be able to listen to and approve tonight is for the shed itself. If you had additional structures you wanted to put in the setback area, we'd have to hear that at a different time.
So we applied last year for that, and that's kind of how we got to where we are. So I would have to reapply and then re-come to a zoning meeting, is what you're saying?
If you had if you wanted to put your pool in,
Yeah.
it would have been better to be part of this application.
Okay.
But we'll have to hear that at a separate occasion since it's not part of this application.
Understood.
All right. Do we have questions for the applicant? Other questions for the applicant? Mr. Truslow?
Thank you for coming here. What happened to your last application? Was it approved? Was it disapproved? What happened with it?
We didn't. I don't know. We just hired the company that sells the buildings to install the building. I don't know whether they didn't file it or whether it was disapproved because of the setback. Only once we were filing our pool company came back to us and said that we were denied due to the setback for our pool. And then when I called Charleston County, they said not only is the pool in the setback, this building, and they said this is what you got to get straightened up first. They didn't tell us that I should have applied for everything all at once. But it is what it is.
For your building itself, and as much as I might like to, I can't make your case for you. What does do you have your copy of your contract with the building company that reflects who was obligated for ensuring compliance with the law? Do you have that?
I don't have a contract per se. I can access, but that would be, the building company that sells and installs the building would be responsible for it.
I mean, where's the contract? What I would like to see, if I can give you some grace, I'd like to see some document that reflected that they were responsible for doing this and they let you down, so that there may be consequences in the future. If people aren't going to comply with the law, there's got to be some consequence.
Sure.
And I'm trying to find out what their obligation was.
Yeah, and I completely understand. I'm a residential builder, so I'm very familiar with the process. And myself, if I had built that, it would have been my responsibility to provide that. So, the only thing I know is that, there's. I think I've actually heard another case that's very similar to this, and I understand there was a ruling in 2022 that's stopping companies like this from installing a building without a permit, basically. That's the only thing I know. I can provide a contract if needed. I don't know if it says in there that they're responsible for the permit, but when my clients hire me as the builder, I'm responsible to pull my permits for whatever I'm providing to the homeowner.
The reason I was asking, in the past, we've had cases where a company would say, you, homeowner, are responsible for getting all the building permits.
Understood.
And it's sort of, in my mind, fact-specific, and that's the reason I'm
I understand.
asking, what was your obligation? What was their obligation?
Okay. I can find that contract and provide it if needed.
Well, let's proceed with questioning first before we delay this hearing tonight and perhaps go down that road.
Sure.
Do you have a copy? You referenced a plat that the company in Ravenel provided to you, or the company that built the shed. Do you have a copy of that by any chance?
The copy of the plat was actually the company that I don't have that. We actually resubmitted for a survey in August of 23 from Schwack and Associates, and that's actually where my site plan is from. and they also made that same mistake, and that's their 15-foot setback is what they provided to us and provided to Charleston County. So that's where all the way up until being denied on the pool permit, was I under the presumption that this, so I would suggest that the survey from Schwacky and Associates would show that same 15-foot setback.
Okay. All right. Do we have other questions for the applicant? Any other questions from the board? All right, no other questions. All right, Mr. Carey, thank you so much for your testimony this evening.
Thank you.
Let's see if we have other people here to speak in favor of your application. If so, now would be the time to please come forward. There's no one else here to speak in favor of the application. Anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? We have a very quiet crowd tonight. Everybody's just here for their own cases. So we shall close this public hearing this portion of the hearing to the public, and I will ask staff if they have any other question, or ask the board members if there's any other questions for staff.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Mr. Carey mentioned that he had a plat survey from Swacky and Company. I guess that was with regard to his pool that he wants to put in, but it also shows a 15-foot setback on that. Is that something that we can consider as part of this, in essence,
we don't require surveyors to put setbacks on.
Right.
And it is helpful to put the setback at the time, but this setback for this lot was never 15. So if the reason we would require them to do it is to show the buildable area. But like I said, this AGR lot was it was always going to be a 30-foot setback for the rear.
right, but
They're applying, it looks like they're trying to apply side setbacks to all three sides instead of a rear setback.
oh, so that 15-foot setback was a different side from this particular case with regard to this building?
Right,
Is
so the
that-
correct setback for the rear is 30, and then 15 and 15, but they're showing 15 feet on all three sides, and that's not correct. And that's one reason we don't necessarily recommend they put the setbacks on, because they could have changed, but in this case, they didn't. So it's just the wrong setback.
The surveyor does have a note on the survey that says the setback should be verified prior to construction.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? All right, well, board, I would like to entertain a motion for this request. Is there anyone that would make a motion? We cannot close this case out without a motion. Ms. Smith?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the setback request based on the extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to the piece of property. The conditions that apply to the site do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity, because these conditions, the application of the ordinance to this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. That the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of this variance. That the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance that would allow the establishment of a use not otherwise prohibited. That the need for the variance is not a result of the applicant's own actions, but that the company may have been negligent in their vetting of the property, and that the granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plans or purpose of the ordinance.
Along with that, I believe there were some special conditions from staff. Do you include those in your motion?
Yes. I'd like to make the approval contingent on the special,
You can just say the special conditions recommended by staff.
based on the, yes, for the special conditions recommended by staff.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith. Is there a second? Mr. Brown with the second. So we have a motion that has been properly made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Truslow?
As usual, I'm going to respond to this. As much as I would like to support this application, I'm compelled by, we have 7 conditions. You've got to meet them all. You can't just meet 6. Well, the one I struggle with is item number 6, which requires the applicant to have no fault in this. There's a claim that this may have been due to a builder. If that was the case, you would think there'd be a contract here, or there would be the builder was saying, please, I made a mistake, help these people out. I hear from builders all the time about frustration with that there needs to be a respect for the law. If the builder was the one that was responsible, then there's recourse. Number 3, I couldn't make the case for the applicant as much as I might want to in urging him to have brought his contract so we would know exactly who was responsible. So, again, all conditions have to have been met. My position has been, if people don't comply with the law and we don't try to have respect for the law, then there's no reason to have a law. So I'm going to reluctantly have to vote against this.
Thank you.
And
Mr.
I'm sure I'll be in the minority, but my position is you got to comply with the law. If we don't, everything's a free-for-all and the public's not going to be protected. So
Right.
That's my position.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Truslow. I would point out that we do have members from the Wamalo Island Land Planning Committee present this evening, and they have not voiced support or opposition to this project. I believe we would hear from them if there were opposition, nor have we received any public comments in opposition to it. So I wouldn't necessarily say that public is being harmed in this particular application, but I do completely understand particularly the sensitive nature of a builder knowing what the setbacks on his property should be. Any other comments, discussions? All right, we shall move to a vote. So all those in favor of the motion that has been made, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have one opposed, Mr. Truslow. But Mr. Carey, fortunately, your application has been granted, so you will receive a final decision mailed to you via certified mail within 10 working days from staff, and please contact them for the next steps in the process. Thank you for your time this evening. All right, are we good to keep moving, guys? All right, good deal. All right, our sixth case this evening will be BZA 0325000854, and Mrs. Working has the floor again.
All right. The applicant and property owner, Gregory F. Rayburn, represented by Ross Appel, Esquire of McCullough Con Appel, are requesting a variance to reduce the required 50-foot front street side setback and the required 15-foot interior side setback for 2 proposed detached accessory structures, a garage and a guest house, at 3340 Oak Branch Road, which is TMS number 256000012 on Johns Island in Charleston County. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the agricultural residential AGR zoning district. More specifically, the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required 50-foot front street side setback by 10 feet to 40 feet and the required 15-foot interior side setback by 4.7 feet to 10.3 feet for a proposed detached accessory structure, which is the 22-foot by 24-foot garage, and the required 50-foot front street side setback by 39.6 feet to 10.4 feet for a proposed attached accessory structure, the 22 by 36-foot guest house. And this is the 2025 variance plan. In 2022, the board heard requests for 3 existing structures, and that was approved with conditions that they receive permits for those structures. These structures were in place prior to them purchasing the property, and they did receive all permits for those. Let's see. This is the standards in the ordinance for setback in AGR, the 300-foot radius. Aerial. And we posted the property on April 16th. A couple of photos of some of the structures. And again, this is the 2025 plan and then the 2022 variance plan. plat. And regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it may meet 1 through 7. The board may approve conditions, or deny the request based on the board's findings of fact, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, you should consider the following condition. 1, the guest house shall not be used as an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, or a short-term rental, STR. And one reason we're recommending that is because it it does not meet the setback requirements for ADUs, which are different on the waterfront, so. And they've stated they don't want to use it that way. They're not going to have a kitchen.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Is there any questions for staff? Everybody's got it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant present? Mr. Appel?
Yes, sir.
It's been a little while since
How
we've
are
seen
you?
you here. Welcome back.
I missed y'all.
We have missed having you here. Please state your name and address and tell us why we should approve this application.
Ross Appel here on behalf of the property owner, Gregory Rayburn. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a first for me. This is the first time I've ever been back before the board on the same property for variances. It's kind of amazing to think that it was 2022. It feels like it was yesterday. I guess this is what getting older feels like. Back in 2022, I was here because Mr. Rayburn had just purchased the property, and as is often the case, sometimes, he hired a pool contractor, came to meet with the staff. Staff looked at the as-built surveys that were provided, and lo and behold, there were not 1, 2, 3, 4 structures located in the setback that he was not responsible for. He inherited these zoning violations, so came before the board for an after-the-fact variance request for all of those structures, and the board was gracious enough to grant us unanimous approval. So fast forward to today, we're here because one of those structures has been destroyed due to a tree falling on it, and he is looking to rebuild a garage in that location, and he's also looking to build an accessory structure on the property. To be clear, it is not an accessory dwelling unit. There will not be a kitchen in said structure, and we are fine with the condition that that structure not ever be used as an STR. So you'll not see me a third time coming for an EHR special exception on this one at all. We're fine for that to be part of the conditions. So this is one of those interesting cases where, like, the board has already kind of acknowledged in granting those prior variances that this property has some unique and exceptional circumstances to it. And if we could pull the site plan back up, I'd like to show everybody sort of why that is the case. This is a very odd lot in the sense that the long side of the property is actually the side of the property that fronts the street. So if you see Oak Branch Road there in the lower right-hand corner, that is the public right-of-way that is considered the front of the property. So in the AGR district, you've got to go 50 feet back from that location. You couple that with the other setbacks applicable to the property. We just heard about the 30-foot setback to the rear in AGR on the prior application. And then you've got your OCRM critical area setbacks along the marsh. So the net effect of all this is an extraordinarily limited building envelope on this property when you take all those factors together, and also considering this property is extraordinarily long and narrow and very unique in shape when compared to all the other properties in the near vicinity. So for those reasons, we believe we meet criterias 1 and 2, which go to the issue of exceptional and extraordinary circumstances and conditions that don't generally apply. In terms of the third element, prohibiting or unreasonably restricting the use of the property, we think that you're living out on Johns Island, sort of in the more rural part of the county, outside the urban growth boundary. You should be able to have a garage to put your lawn equipment, tools, things of that nature. That's all he's seeking in terms of that garage that we're asking for. And then as far as the accessory structure goes, this is for additional living space for Mr. Rayburn himself, his family, friends, things of that nature. Not going to be marketed to the public. This is never going to be an ADU. You'll never see this on Airbnb. And so we believe these are two reasonably sized, reasonable structures for the property. The existing primary dwelling on the property is a one-story, very modest property. It's unlike what you normally see out on Bohicket Road, which are beautiful mansions on the water over there. Criteria number 4, substantial detriment. We believe that there will not be a substantial detriment. There's 2 letters of support from neighbors in your packet. Ben and Alexis Strobel, the owners of 2770 Bohicket Road, and also Robert Salvo over on 3338 Oak Branch Road. They all support it, and I don't think there were any letters in opposition received as part of the agenda item. And then as for criteria 5, this doesn't establish a new use, because again, I want to reiterate, there will never be an STR on this property, especially on that accessory structure that we're talking about. And then the 6th criteria, the need for the variance not being the result of one zone actions. The need for the variance is due fundamentally to the way this lot was platted and the fact that the long edge of the property is fronting the public right of way. That is a very unique, odd circumstance when you couple that with a pretty significant front setback of 50 feet. That's going to really make it difficult for you to do much of anything on your property outside of that setback. And then the last element of the test, number 7, conflict with the comp plan. We think that a modestly sized garage and a modest accessory structure that's not going to ever be used as an STR is very consistent with the rural policies set forth in the comp plan. And again, can't stress this enough, no short-term rentals on the property. So I know that can be controversial from time to time. And so that's our request. I would also add that the garage that's being proposed on the right side of the site plan there alongside the driveway there actually is less of an incursion into that side setback than the original shed that was located there that we got after the fact variances for. So in a way, we're actually reducing the scope of the incursion into the setback with this new request when you compare today to what we did 3 years ago. And with that, I will rest and happy to answer any questions the board may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Appel.
Yes, sir.
Do the board members have any questions for the applicant?
I have one.
Mr. Brown?
This shed that is, I guess I'm a little bit confused. There's a proposed garage, and then there's a shed that's even closer to the street, we'll call it. Is the shed staying, or is it?
Yes, so that shed, so you're talking about the one sort of in
South.
between Oak Branch Road and the proposed garage?
Yes.
Correct. So that shed is actually one of the sheds that were originally approved as part of the after the fact variance that was not destroyed. So we're proposing to keep that in its location. It's that one in the middle there along the sideline that was destroyed and is being replaced with the new garage, if that makes sense. So there's 3 sheds on that side property line.
Okay.
It's the country. You got sheds all over the place out there, you know.
Is
Any other questions, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, a couple more, or at least one more, maybe 2. This proposed garage, not the guest house, but the proposed garage, why is it so far over to the right? Has it been investigated, or whether it could be moved more to the left and less of setback?
Yeah, so I think that there's 2 answers to that. The first is that the garage needs to be tied in with the existing concrete driveway pad on the property. And so that's why it's located in its configuration there. I suppose the guest house could be where the garage is and vice versa, but the thought was to, the garage itself would probably be a little bit less impactful a use than living space there, sort of keeping the habitable structures away from the shared property line there.
I guess I'm looking more on the right-hand side. I see the 10-foot-3 setback.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Instead, I mean, it was 15 feet. Why does it need to be so far over?
Oh, you're saying like why couldn't you just sort of level it off right at the 15-foot setback? That I think has to do with the fact in order to get a vehicle in there, it's got to be that to be functional as a garage. It's got to have that additional width, and we're only talking about less than 5 feet there. And you know, a variance has been granted in that location. I mean, the structure that the garage is replacing was a shed that was entirely in the setback. And so the thought is that this is actually a 5-foot incursion, or a little less than 5-foot incursion, whereas the original approved shed after the fact was swimming in that setback there.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Mr. Brown?
I guess the same question comes with the guest house. Like, why is it as far out away from the house and not trying to get it back into the, granted, with the setbacks, I agree, there's a lot of, not much room left when you establish all these setbacks, but at the same time, trying to make an attempt to get as close to the setbacks as you could. I'm just curious why it's out where it is. You mentioned something about tying into the concrete. There's a lot of concrete, it would appear, out there, so.
Yeah, curious. I think that's part of it, and then there's also considerations of making it too close to that pool area over there, and also the primary structure. This is intended for family and in-laws, and sometimes having a little healthy space there on the property can be good for everybody over there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other questions for the applicant? No. Mr. Sedell, please.
To the question about the garage, you talked about, I think you mentioned the width of the garage was required, right? But it's actually the depth that would be affected by moving it off the setback, right? The concrete, the new concrete pad would be reduced if it was moved toward the existing concrete, but the width would not be affected, right? So, I mean, you would need less new concrete, and you would tie on to the existing concrete. It's not clear to me why it has to exceed the setback there. And it wouldn't affect the size of the garage at all.
No, I follow what you're saying. The issue there has to do with the maneuverability of vehicles getting in and out of the garage. We looked at that because one of the things I always tell clients when they're going in for variances is make it as easy for me as possible when I get up in front of you guys, which means be considerate on don't be indulgent in what you're asking for. In other words, if you can design around the need for a variance, do it. And we studied it, we looked at it, and they had an engineering reason for why they had to have a certain amount of ability to turn and maneuver. I think part of the idea is to have some, like riding lawnmowers and all kinds of different equipment in there to manage the property and things like that. So I can assure you it was looked at by people much smarter than me when it comes to those kind of things.
Any other questions for Mr. Appel? No. Mr. Truslow?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Appel.
Thank y'all.
All right. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? All right. We shall now close this public hearing portion of the case, and I'll ask the board members if they have any other questions for staff. There are no other questions for staff. Do we have a motion? Mr. Truslow.
Mr. Chairman, in case 03-2500854, it would please me to make a motion to approve the request for a variance, or basically an adjustment relative to the setback, especially involving a new garage. There's notice has been given, jurisdiction is proper. The law governing this is covered in Chapter 4. The criteria that relate to this is that we must find that all 7 have been adhered to or contained in 3.10.6. One of the conditions, and I compare this to my comments in the last case, this was an inherited problem from the beginning, and it's been resolved. I seem to remember Mr. Appel appearing once before and made a very good argument previously. Again, this was something that was an inherited condition, and then they had a tree fall, and that was unexpected and needs to be resolved. The conditions have been met clearly on criteria 1 through 7 in 3.10.6. Number 1, the documentation provided shows that this is a very odd lot. That's what's reflected in the site plans. Number 2, it's along with number 1, it's a unique piece of property. The number 3, the garage would, from my point of view and from the argument that's been made, the garage isn't going to be a detriment to the community. Rather, garages such as this are often a benefit to the community because there's a place to store equipment and such. So number 3 is met. This is not going to, and 3 and 4 go along hand in glove with one another. This is no detriment to the community. There's been no objection. Number 5, the variance does not allow for a use that's not permitted. Number 6, this is not due to the applicant's own action. And when a tree falls, that's the very essence of something that's unexpected and not the fault of the applicant. Number 7, this doesn't substantially conflict at all. It appears to me with the comprehensive plan or the purposes of the plan, which is to provide for reasonable housing. So that's my motion to approve this request for a variance.
Were there special conditions?
Can I ask a question
Hold
before
on,
making a
one
motion?
second. All right, Mr. Trueslow, are you including?
I think there was a condition that I would, if there was a condition recommended by staff, I would ask that be a part of my motion.
All right, we
If
have
that was your question.
No.
We have a motion that's been made. Let's see if we have a second before we entertain discussion first. We have a second from Ms. Smith. So is there any discussion? Mr. Brown?
I just wonder, Mr. Truslow, with your motion, if you would be willing to add a condition to adjust the garage location along that western setback to get it. I realize that there was a previously built shed that we approved a setback, but here we have the opportunity to at least correct some of that. Can we, notwithstanding the equipment or car access, based on my knowledge of these sorts of things, there's, I believe, enough radius and enough clearance to get these in there. Is there an opportunity to add a condition to?
My response is that I would like to, I'd like to hear what the applicant has to say about this and give him a fair opportunity to respond before I could answer that question.
We have closed the, go ahead.
The applicant has spoken to that. He talked about the engineers who designed, who did the layout. So I think he spoke to it to the best of his ability. And he mentioned that he's not an engineer, but that.
Then I'm going to stand by my motion as made. And I think that's what the applicant has asked for. So if there's going to be a change, so be it.
It's good discussion. Is there any other discussion? There will be no other discussion, so we'll go ahead and move this to vote. So all those in favor of the motion that has been made to approve this request, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
No.
Those opposed? We have one opposed, Mr. Brown. The motion carries. So, Mr. Rappel, please notify your client that the application has been granted. You will receive the final decision via certified mail from staff within 10 working days. Please contact them for the next steps in the process. Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. All right, we have two more to go, so let's keep going this evening. We're at BZA 0325000855, and we have Mrs. Working again.
That's crazy. The applicant and property owner, Corinne Marie Bodner, represented by Ben Charlet and Matthew Johnson of Oakwood Homes, are requesting a special exception for the placement of a manufactured housing unit in the low-density residential R4 zoning district at 1689 Dillway Street, which is TMS number 35107000021 in the St. Andrews area of Charleston County. The subject property and adjacent properties are located in the low-density residential R4 zoning district. The subject property is 3,422 square feet or 0.08 acres and is vacant. The applicant property owner would like to install a 16-foot by 56-foot manufactured home on the property. The applicant's letter of intent explains, in quote, proposing allowance of a manufactured home at 1689 Dillwood Street, Charleston, South Carolina, brand new zero energy ready manufactured home, end quote. So this is the 300-foot radius. So we analyzed the radius of properties within 300 feet of the parcel on March 5th, 2025, and determined that of the 16 parcels within the 300-foot subject area, there were 12 existing site-built homes and no manufactured homes within the 300-foot area. The subject property is the only vacant parcel, and there are 3 parcels that are located in the city of Charleston's jurisdiction that contain multifamily apartment complexes. The zoning ordinance requirements in Chapter 6. This is the zoomed in aerial and zoomed out aerial. You can kind of see some of the multifamily projects around it. We posted the property on April 16th. Dillway Street, and then the site plan, and then the plat. You can see it is a very small property. Regarding the 6 approval criteria for special exceptions, we stated that it may meet 1 and 2, and it meets 3 through 6. The board may approve conditions or deny the request based on the board's findings of fact unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following condition recommended by staff, and that is 1, the manufactured home shall comply with section 6424B of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance. Have any questions?
All right, thank you, Mrs. Working. This is one of those unique cases where if there were actually 25% of manufactured homes in the area, we would not be here hearing this case,
Right.
Correct? Okay. All right, are there other questions for staff? Mr. Sadell?
One question. I'm looking at the aerial. It looks like there's a manufactured home to the right on the aerial.
Yeah, we looked at all of those, and it's possible it's a modular because we looked at permits for all the properties within the 300 feet.
So that rectangular structure to the right in the photograph,
Yeah, that's not a mobile home.
The aerial photo.
the aerial photo.
Oh, go back
Can you
to the
go to the
aerial
aerial photo? Right there, to the bottom right? Mm-hmm. That's not a structure?
It was not a manufactured.
I see. Okay, thank you.
If it was, we would still be hearing this because of the 25%, correct?
Right.
Other questions for staff? Ms. Smith?
Was there a change of ownership, or is this an existing, an owner that's owned the property for a while? Do you know?
I would have to look that up, but I can get that information easily in a second. So I'll look that up for you.
Any other questions for staff? All right, thank you, Mrs. Working.
Okay.
Is the applicant present? All right, if you would come forward and state your name and address for the record and tell us why we should approve this application.
Hi, my name is Corinne Bodner. Any animal lovers? Anyone? The reason I'm saying that is because I feel like this goes beyond so much more than a house. My entire future is in this room right now. Dear Charleston County, I am writing to you today not only asking for a special exemption, but also explaining why this goes so much more beyond than just a house and how much I provide to the community. My lifelong career is pet grooming. I have been in the industry for over 16 years, and I have dedicated my life to providing dogs and cats a safe, clean, and highly skilled environment to be groomed in. This is my second grooming business located at 1703 Savannah Highway in West Ashley called The Dog Barkers. A direct result of COVID has led to a huge shortage of pet groomers. There are too many dogs for this area and for grooming salons to not be able to keep up with such high demand. There are so many dogs that I have the support of many local grooming shops that send me their overflow due to the shortage. What others would call our competition, I would call my friends, as these shops welcome me in with open arms as a sigh of relief knowing we were able to keep the Charleston dogs clean and feeling fresh as it is necessary for their health. Being a local business owner, I would like to stay as close to my business as possible. So that means I can run it efficiently, being so close by for its longevity. I would also like to mention how amazingly handy my husband Richard is. This house would be meticulously maintained. He is beyond handy. This house would never dilapidate as he can fix everything from the floors to the roofing to the siding to the electrical to lawn care to replacing the entire contents, maintaining the longevity of the appearance inside and out. Our house will never fall in disrepair. At the end of the day, I know when I rest my head down, I sleep well at night knowing I bring a great team, provide jobs to the future employees of the Dog Barkers, and give our son, who's just woke up from his 2-hour nap, the house that he deserves. We are ecstatic to live and reside in Charleston County, and we hope that you consider us for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Bodner. Do we have questions for the applicant?
And to
Nella?
answer the question from earlier, it was purchased in June 2024.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Y'all are a quiet, Mr. Seidel, thank you.
question.
Sir.
Thank you for your presentation. I wasn't clear, are you planning to do your business also at this location?
Absolutely not. This is a home residence.
Okay.
My business is on Savannah Highway.
I see.
This is like biking distance. I mean, it's like right down the road.
Okay.
I
It's the proximity that you
very
were
close. I do not want to
appreciating.
leave West Ashley because of traffic.
Right.
I need to stay close by. I especially when I get employees. As soon as I get into this house for my residents, I would like to start having employees. I'm hoping to have employees by Christmas. And with that comes with me needing to be there. So I cannot let traffic get in the way of something like that.
I see. Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Ms. Smith?
Are you planning on taking down any trees? Or
No,
is it
no. So it's a very small lot. Everything is, I mean, it's such a tiny square. There are no trees that need to be taken down. Maybe a few branches in the future I can get some permits for if needed. But there are no trees that need to be taken down.
Thank you.
Do you have any pets of your own that you'll keep at the property?
Of course. We're crazy. We love dogs.
I totally get that. We had to put down our 16-year-old pup a couple of weeks ago, and that
I'm
was a
so
tough
sorry.
day. But yes.
Oh.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, Ms. Bodner, for your comments. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Johnson. I work at Oakwood Homes at 7083 Rivers Avenue. Ms. Bodner came to us at the beginning of the year looking for a home to purchase, and after finding out she owned the property, we went out, we did some evaluations looking at the county setbacks, knowing that the front had to be 20 feet, back had to be 10, sides had to be 5. Knowing that I could not take more than 40% of the property for coverage, she's got a 25-foot setback on the front due to an ingress for utilities. So that really shorted us down. We'd reached out to all of our modular companies to say, hey guys, can you build us a floor plan to this square footage size that will work in favor of Ms. Bodner? They could not. So we provided her a fully sheetrocked, well-insulated, coated, HUD manufactured home that is going to be trimmed out and finished from top to bottom with all the variances that need to be met for HUD manufacturing coating in an area where we have met a local that has lived there his entire life. He's excited for the family. We spoke to Mr. Terry several times in the process of going out at several property visits. There was a manufactured home in the back right on that one picture. It is a dilapidated house that may or may not have a permit. It is beside an old block home, which is what is traditionally out there, is your old block homes that may or may not meet city codes to current standards. So what we provide is an opportunity for an affordable living for her and her family. That's not going to break the bank. That's several hundred less than building the same size structure on a floor plan that would fit at this particular parcel.
Well, thank you. And please make sure if this request is granted that it's put in the right location so we don't have to hear a variance setback later on.
100%, yes, sir.
All right, are there any other questions for? All right, thank you so much for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and tell us why we should not approve this application.
My name is Ruthie Angela Angram Breland, and I live at 1740 Dillway Street, and which would be right behind her. And I've been there for over 30 years. My father been there before me, and then my grandfather before him, I believe, built a lot of the houses around there. We don't want to have a manufactured houses there. I talk to my neighbors, my friends, my cousins, my family. We don't want it because we know that next it'll be a condo or apartments. We want to keep it residential, family, and that's how it is. We don't want to have a manufactured house there. And I've been there, like I say, over 30 years. My father been there, my grandfather been there, so we like, we don't mind, I don't mind change, but this is not what we want. We want to keep it homey, residential.
Okay, are there any other reasons why we should oppose this application?
Probably many, but that's what I had.
All right, well, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for this young lady? All right, thank you very much for your testimony tonight. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to this application? All right, well, you have an opportunity to respond to the opposition if you'd like to come forward. All right, so the applicant is not coming forward to respond to the opposition to this request. So that will close this public hearing portion of the case, and I will ask my board members if they have any other questions for staff. No other questions for staff. All right, well then I will entertain a motion for this matter. Anyone?
Well, we have tag team over here.
I'll go with Mr. Brown this time. He raised his hand.
Brown, okay.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve case number 0325000855. Appears that all issues have been addressed, and as per the county Zeldar, let's see, we're on for special exceptions. Article 36.5 appears to be consistent with the recommendations contained in the comprehensive plan. It's compatible with existing uses in the vicinity of being residential. We're continuing that. Will help in the general welfare and character of the surrounding community. Adequate provisions have been made with making sure we stay in the setbacks, as we stated before. Shouldn't be any adverse influence with noise or anything else in the area. All natural features will be kept in place as per number 4 with the trees and on the site. complies with all applicable rules as long as they maintain everything that's required for a mobile home in this area. And vehicular traffic with the easement that's on the site now to get in and out shouldn't be hindered or endangered. And my motion is included with any conditions of staff.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We have a second from Mr. Seidel. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Well, let's vote. For all those in favor of the motion that has been made, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Well, your application has been granted. You'll receive within 10 business days a final decision from staff via certified mail. Please contact them for the next steps in the process. I would like to point out that we did not change any zoning with that particular request. It's still a single-family residential, and it doesn't allow for any kind of condos or that type of encroachment in your neighborhood. But thank you for coming out this evening as well. All right, we have one more case to go. The final case this evening will be BZA 0425008556, and Mrs. Working will bring us home with the last one.
Yeah. Okay. The applicants and property owners Enoch R. Smiley and Sharice D. Smiley are requesting a variance to reduce the required 50-foot front street side setback by 34 feet to 16 feet for a proposed single-family residence at 2568 Cherry Point Road, which is TMS number 15100000293 on Walnut Island in Charleston County. The subject property and adjacent properties are located in the Nicholas Russell Family Plan Development, PD 141 zoning district. The 0.51 acre subject property, lot 21E, is vacant. The PD requires a 50-foot front street side setback for lot 21E. There are, let's see, go over this. There are 3 lots, 21A, 21B, and 21C that front Maybank. Those require a 25-foot front setback instead of the 50, but this property requires the 50. The applicant is proposing to preserve 2 live oak trees, a 36-inch and a 54-inch live oak. This is the chapter that states that they can apply for variances in plan developments. And then this is a section from the plan development, and this is the plan that shows that. The 300-foot radius, aerial, zoomed out. We posted the property on April 16th. And again, this is the site plan. If you can see, I put a little red line where the 50-foot would be, so it's about half of the house is encroaching into the 50-foot. And then we have the plat that shows the properties. Regarding the approval criteria, we stated that it meets 1 through 3. It may meet 4, 6, and 7, and it meets 5. The board may approve of conditions, or deny the request based on the BZA's finding of fact unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following condition recommended by staff. 1, the encroachment area shall be limited to the footprint shown on the submitted site plan. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Is there any questions for staff from the board? No questions, Ms. Working. You're getting off easy tonight. This is not fair. All right. Is the applicant present? If you could please state your name and address for the record and tell us why we should approve this application.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharice Smiley. We reside at 1667 Old Military Road on James Island, South Carolina. And we recently purchased this property on Wadmalaw on Cherry Point Road of October of last year. And what we are looking to do is build a family home for me and my husband and our 4 children, and being that we do have a large family, the required setback is prohibiting us from building a large enough family home in addition to the 2 trees that are located almost in the middle of the lot. And being that we can't encroach or want to cut the trees down, we are requesting approval for the 50-foot front side setback to be reduced to the 16 feet, so that way we may build a home big enough to support our family.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
So, and you would need a variance either way, correct? If you were to push back behind the setback, it was going to encroach upon the trees.
Yes.
So, one or the other.
Yes, and
All
I do
right.
know that there is a mitigation requirement should these trees be requested to take down, which can be costly. And being that we are a middle-class family, I don't think that we would be able to afford the mitigation fees for such large trees.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Smiley. Let me see if any of my fellow board members have any questions for you. All right. Well, Mr. Seidel.
Question. So, when you position your house, where are the trees going to be at that point? Is it on the side or in the front?
It will be in the backyard.
In the back.
Right,
Okay.
which I would like to also add that
Yeah.
due to additional requirements such as where the water well can be placed, it has to be 75 feet away from other septic tanks. And so being that we have surrounding neighbors on each side of us, the left side, right side, and the back, we are limited to where we can place our well and our septic tank. And so we actually have to have our septic tank to the left of the property due to the wells positioned for our neighboring families. So we are very limited between the trees, the well and septic requirements of where we can actually place the home.
Ms. Miley, it's kind of refreshing to have someone here not wanting to cut trees, but to work around the trees. So thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Seidel. Are there any other questions for Ms. Smiley? All right. Well, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Please state your name and address for the record. Tell us why we should approve.
Hello, good evening. My name is Courtney Alexander. I am actually from Hunter Quinn Homes. Our address is 852 Low Country Boulevard in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. So I've been actually working with the Smileys on this particular project. They came to me back in, I believe it was almost November of last year. We decided to go under contract, and as we were looking at the site map and trying to work with the plot plan, as you can tell, those grand oaks are directly in the center of that home, of the actual site itself. I read the notes and the recommendation of your staff, but I do ask that we are not limited to where we can build. Right now, they're still considering several plans, and unfortunately, we have several different plot plans, and I didn't know that she needed the multiple ones that we had. We're just hoping that at least to get the 16-foot setback versus the 50-foot setback so that we can work within that particular area. There is an off chance that we may have to move the septic slightly. So we just wanted to make sure that you all are aware of that as well, because of, as she stated, we do have to be 75 feet away from all other septics when it comes to their water, and I have to be very conservative with that in regards to their well. I'm not sure if you guys can pull up the site plan or the plot plan that was provided. As you can tell right now, there is where it says near 21D, it says a proposed well, but there's already an existing well at that particular location. So we are still trying to determine exactly where a well can be placed. Right now, it does look like it's going to be placed right directly where it says 21E. Again, we are trying our hardest to stay away from those grand oaks. So we're just only asking that with the conditions that they did provide, that it could be potentially amended as long as we stay within that 16-foot setback and stay away from the trees as well.
So to understand that, you're saying for the water well, it may be located within the rear setback or side setback?
Yes, so they can be placed within the setback. It just cannot be a structure that cannot be moved within that setback, yes, sir.
Okay, but you're not asking for something additional to what's not already in the application?
No, sir. The only thing that I'm
Okay.
asking is that I believe your staff has indicated at the end, I don't know if they want to pull that back up.
I understand what you're saying. If I understand you correctly, you're saying that the site plan that was submitted,
Yes,
that you may need to vary from that based on which house
house
they actually
plan?
picked.
Which home plan
and where
they
the septic
choose.
system has to go.
Yes.
And I think that can, if it's approved, I think the staff can approve that.
Yep. Okay. All right.
thank you so much.
Any other questions for Ms. Alexander before she
Sorry.
steps away?
Nope.
All right.
Y'all have a great day.
Thank you so much. All right. You're here to speak in favor of the application?
In favor, yes.
All right.
I
Name and address.
really will be very brief because Mr. Seidel pretty much said everything that I would say. But Aaron White, representing my family at the address of 2558 Cherry Point Road. We are adjacent to the subject property. As it's already been stated, we are in favor of this variance request simply because it is within good faith. I reviewed the application very thoroughly, and it does seek to preserve the very nature and character of Wadmalaw. I am a former board member of the Wadmalaw Island Land Planning Committee, and that is what we stand for on Wadmalaw. So I'm happy to stand here on behalf of my family, which we've had a lot of conversations about, and stand in support of this application. My wife and I have built a home. We've built a home for our family, and so I can understand the intricate parts of home ownership and all the things that you have to go through in order to make that happen for your family. And so I stand in support of that today. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. White. Any questions for Mr. White? There are none. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application?
So quit selling.
I was hoping we'd hear from the Land Planning Committee as well, but that was good. That was close enough. So. All right. Is there anyone else here? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? I'm going to guess no, because you guys are all sitting together. All right, we shall close the public comment section of this hearing, and I'll ask my board members if they have any questions for staff. Again, going to guess no, because everybody seems to be ready to go home tonight. So with that, we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Trueslow.
I'd be pleased to make a motion to approve the request for a variance to reduce the setbacks. Notice has been given, jurisdiction is proper. This matter is governed by Chapter 4 and the criteria set forth in Section 3.10.6, 1 through 7, all of which have been met for the reasons that are stated in the Planning Director's review and report. Number one, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions. Here's somebody trying to preserve properties. Properly noticed, we're not trying to cut trees. We're trying to provide home which is consistent with what the community wants. There's clearly, I had written it down, then somebody else said it's all clear. It's clear that it's a matter of good faith. The conditions don't apply to other properties. We're dealing with specific property. This would restrict or unreasonably restrict the applicant's use of the property where we did not support this. Number 4, the authorization will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties, and we've had a well-spoken response regarding that. Number 5, we shall not grant a variance the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of use not otherwise permitted, clearly does not apply here. 6, the need for the variance is not a result of the applicant's own actions. This is, in using a golf term, you play them as they lie. And again, there's good faith. Number 7, this does not conflict, doesn't substantially conflict. I don't think it conflicts at all with the comprehensive plan and specifically the purposes of the ordinance. So it's my privilege to recommend this, and I'm gonna feel good about it going home tonight.
Was there a special condition?
There's a special condition, and I'm not sure about that.
Right. I don't think you need it.
I don't think I needed it either.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're willing to meet the 16-foot that was advertised, that's fine. There's not like a ton of, it's not like they have a 300-foot long area where they would take advantage of the 16-foot setback. So I'm fine not having a condition for this.
No conditions. Man, this is unique. All right.
We're on a roll tonight.
All right, we have a motion. I think Mr. Seidel, our Wamala representative, has seconded the motion. So we have a motion that's been made by Mr. Truslow, seconded by Mr. Seidel. All those in favor, is there any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have unanimous consent from the entire room, so thank you. Your application has been granted. Within 10 working days, you'll receive via certified mail the final decision from staff. Please contact them with the next steps in the process. All right, thank you guys for showing up.
And thank you for saving those trees.
Yes, thank you. All right, Ms. Working, what other business do we have to conduct tonight?
Well, thank you guys for having a smooth run meeting, so we could get out of here earlier. For June, we are requesting to hopefully start at 4 again, and this is because we actually have an appeal of an administrative decision, and with appeals, there you get 10 minutes. The appellant gets 10 minutes. Staff gets 10 minutes. We're going to have 8 staff here, probably not including like one of the county lawyers will probably be here. So we'll have a lot of people here. But, and it's, the one old business case is the STR, the corporate renter, they're also going to rent it to, as a STR. So they'll be back. Let's see, what else I got? 2 variances and 3 new STRs. So, but the appeal will take some time. So if you guys are okay with starting at 4 again, we would prefer that.
Everybody good with 4 o'clock? Come on. All right. I believe we'll start at 4 p.m.
And then just a reminder about training, but you guys have until the end of the year, and I'll make sure to send out anything that looks interesting, because I also need credits.
I need to send you mine. I've been to so many conferences this year. I know I have the
I'm
credits.
sure
I just got to send you some
I'm sure
stuff.
you probably got it. Yeah, that's it.
All right. One question. Hold on.
I'm new to the board. Do you mind sending out the training requirements again? And
Yeah,
where
sure.
where to complete
Yeah,
them?
I could do that. Yeah, sure, definitely.
No, Shayna is the attorney. All right. Anything else?
This is the fastest meeting since I've been.
Don't prolong it. We're adjourned.
6:14.